Put God first. Before you chase the dream, before you write the plan, before you stack the dollars, before you build the brand, before you touch the iron, before you sip the coffee, before you open your mouth to speak, ask yourself one thing: did I put God first? Because no matter what you build, if God's not at the center, it won't last. It might shine for a while, it might impress people, it might even look like success, but storms don't care about appearances. When the winds roar and the foundations shake, only one thing keeps it standing: what you built it on. You were not created to grind in confusion. You were not designed to hustle in chaos. You were not born to run toward emptiness. You were born with divine architecture in your soul. You are the temple. But what's sitting on the throne? This world will tell you, put yourself first, put your hustle first, put your ego first. They'll sell you success without soul. They'll package purpose without peace. But God doesn't compete for space. He either reigns in all, or He doesn't reign at all. The moment you put God first, you stop chasing everything that was never meant for you. You stop begging for validation from broken people. You stop living like you're an accident, because now you're aligned, now you're awake, now you're walking in what was written for you before time began. See, clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from surrender. It comes from silence. It comes from being still long enough to hear that voice that's not your fear, not your doubt, not your past, but the voice that's been guiding you your whole life. The one you kept silencing with noise. The one you ignored every time you said, "I've got this," and ran headfirst into burnout. You want to change your life? Start by changing your order. Who's first? Who's at the top of your decisions? Who's behind your goals? Who's inside your daily rituals? Because if God's not first, then your grind is out of alignment. You might move fast, but not forward. You might gain things, but lose yourself. And what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but lose the one soul God handcrafted with eternal purpose? The discipline you crave, the power you want, the peace you need. It all starts by putting God first. Let me tell you something that changed my life. You don't need more motivation. You need revelation. You don't need another success strategy. You need spiritual order. When God is first, everything else knows where to go. The confusion breaks, the chaos clears, and what once felt impossible becomes inevitable, because now you're moving with heaven behind you. You weren't called to survive. You were called to dominate, not in pride, but in purpose, not in ego, but in obedience. And obedience is power, because it aligns you with the source of all power. It's not about religion. It's about recognition, recognizing who you are, recognizing who He is, and bowing your will before the one who gave you breath. The greatest mistake you can make is thinking you are self-made. That's the deception of this generation, that you don't need anything beyond your own mind, that success is a solo act. But ask any man who built something worth remembering, and you'll find a trail of faith behind him. Carnegie prayed. Lincoln cried out to God. Martin Luther King dreamed with God at the center. Even Edison, in all his genius, believed in a higher order beyond himself. This isn't just about belief. This is about structure, order, foundation. Because without that, even brilliance will collapse, even potential will rot, even discipline will lead you in circles. When God is first, you don't have to force doors to open. You don't have to beg for opportunities. You don't have to manipulate rooms to be seen. You walk where He leads and where He leads. No man can block. No devil can close. No fear can dismantle. But when you put other things first, the hustle, the money, the image, you're worshiping golden calves, and golden calves always melt in the fire. They look good until the heat shows up. They shine until the storm reveals the truth. Putting God first means choosing long-term purpose over short-term applause. It means planting in silence while others perform in noise. It means knowing that favor is better than fame, that peace is richer than profit, that a whisper from God is louder than 1,000 opinions from men. There will come a time, and maybe you're already there, when the striving no longer satisfies, when the applause doesn't heal, when the achievement doesn't fill the hole. And in that moment, you'll realize what you were missing wasn't more success. It was Him. It was order. It was alignment. God is not a backup plan. He is the blueprint. He is the foundation. He is the architect. And when He is first, everything else falls into place, like gravity pulling the stars into formation. Keep chasing without Him, and you'll keep burning out. Keep building without Him, and you'll keep watching it fall apart. But put Him first, and watch what happens to your mind, to your time, to your confidence, to your energy, to your clarity, to your purpose, to your life. When you put God first, you stop operating in fear, because now your source is secure. You stop trying to control everything, because now you're led by something higher than your emotions. You stop waiting on others to validate you, because now you know who sent you. You were never meant to be your own God. You were never meant to carry the weight of your future alone. That's why you're tired. That's why you feel like you're moving but not arriving. That's why the winds don't feel like victory, because the soul knows when it's out of alignment. But the moment you reorder your life, the moment you wake up and put God first, not as a slogan, but as a system, everything changes. Not because life got easier, but because now you're stronger. Now you're rooted. Now you're built on rock, not sand. You see, when God is first, you don't walk into rooms needing permission. You walk in carrying presence. Because when heaven backs you, earth responds, not out of fear, but out of recognition that something holy just entered the atmosphere. People will wonder how you keep rising, why doors swing open before you knock, why you're calm in storms, why you smile when others flinch, and they'll think it's confidence, but it's not. It's obedience. It's alignment. It's what happens when your first yes every morning is to the one who wrote your story. Most people live reactive lives. They respond to chaos. They chase noise. They run from fear. But when you put God first, you move proactively. You move with clarity. You move with divine rhythm. You don't follow trends. You follow truth. And truth doesn't expire. It doesn't shake under pressure. It doesn't collapse under criticism. That's why discipline means nothing without direction. Focus is useless without foundation, because you can be the most consistent person in the world. But if you're climbing the wrong mountain, you still lose. And only God knows the mountain you were born to climb. Stop asking people who didn't create you to tell you what you were created for. Stop comparing your path to people who are lost in their own. Your blueprint is sacred, and only the architect can explain it, but he won't yell over the noise. He waits for silence. He waits for surrender. He waits for the day you finally say, I don't want control. I want calling. I don't want fame. I want favor. I don't want to go fast. I want to go right. And in that moment, he steps in, not to take over, but to elevate, to reveal what you couldn't see, to unfold what your grind couldn't access. Putting God first means your goals change shape. You're no longer chasing what the world calls valuable. You're building what heaven calls eternal. You stop measuring your life by numbers and start measuring it by impact, by obedience, by peace, by legacy. When you put God first, you don't rush, you flow, because now you trust the timing, you trust the process, you trust the silence, you trust that what's being delayed is actually being developed, and what feels like a detour is actually divine redirection. I've seen it with my own eyes. People who put themselves first and burned out with full schedules and empty souls, and I've seen the opposite. People who weren't the loudest, weren't the flashiest, didn't have the biggest following, but had favor you couldn't explain. Doors opened for them, opportunities found them. Because when heaven approves it, hell can't block it. Putting God first doesn't mean life gets easy. It means your spirit gets unshakable. It means your roots go deep. So when the winds come, you don't bend. When betrayal comes, you don't break. When success comes, you don't lose yourself, because you weren't built by applause. You were anchored by obedience and listen. There's a difference between chasing purpose and chasing applause. One builds legacy, the other builds ego. One expands you, the other inflates you. One keeps you going in secret, the other dies in silence. When God is first, You're okay with not being seen because you know the seeds planted in secret bloom in divine time. You're not afraid of the slow season because you know roots grow deeper in silence. You're not scared of being underestimated because your value isn't visible. It's foundational. You begin to see that putting God first is not just about morning prayers. It's about every decision, every conversation, every goal, every dollar, every relationship, every yes you give. Is it leading you closer to God or pulling you further from Him? You can't serve two masters. You can't chase two kingdoms, and you can't reach divine destiny with divided loyalty. So choose not once, but every day, every morning, every moment of doubt, every season of pressure. Choose to put Him first. Because when God is first, you are not lost. Even when the road is unfamiliar, you are not alone. Even when others walk away, you are not lacking. Even when the world says you don't have enough, you've got the most powerful force in the universe walking ahead of you, and everything else is just detail. Everything else is just alignment. Everything else is just grace working behind the scenes. So stop worrying, stop striving, stop doubting, and start aligning, start surrendering, start trusting. You've tried doing it your way. Now try it the right way. Put God first, not next, not second, not when it's convenient. Put Him first in everything, because He already put you first when He gave you breath, when He carried you through what should have killed you. When He opened doors no one could explain, when He whispered, "I'm not finished with you yet," in your darkest night. Put God first, because without Him, everything you build is just sand. But with Him, even the impossible becomes inevitable. You've got one life, one breath that's yours in this exact moment, and every heartbeat is a countdown, not to pressure you, but to remind you. This is not a rehearsal. This is not a test run. This is it, and you get to choose how you spend it, worrying about what you can't control or surrendering to the one who already sees the whole picture. Every second you delay putting God first is a second you give to confusion, a second you hand over to fear, a second you let your past decide your future. But when you make that shift, when you finally draw the line in your soul and say, no more chasing shadows, no more hollow victories, no more performing for a world that didn't create me, that's the moment your real life begins, because clarity lives in alignment, peace lives in surrender, and purpose lives in presence. The presence of God, not once a week, not only when things fall apart, but daily, constant, unshakable, as real as the breath in your chest, as powerful as the sun that rises without your permission every morning. When you wake up and give your day to God before the world gets a piece of you, you're not starting behind, you're starting ahead, because now you've put the power in its proper place. Now you've made your spirit the commander and your circumstance the servant. And that is the difference between those who live with power and those who live in panic. Most people are running from emptiness, running toward applause, running with no map, no compass, just momentum. But you, when you put God first, you don't run. You walk with authority. You walk with assurance. You walk like you've already won. Because spiritually you have this isn't about perfection. This is about positioning. God doesn't bless perfection. He blesses surrender. And surrender isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's recognizing that your strength without direction is just noise, that your talent without truth is just decoration. But when it's submitted, when it's aligned, when it's humbled, it becomes unstoppable. The enemy doesn't fear your gifts. He fears your alignment, because a gifted man out of order is a threat to no one but a focused man, a surrendered man, a man who puts God first. He can't be bought. He can't be broken. He can't be moved. That's the power of priority. That's the strength of putting things in their rightful place, not as a motivational idea, but as a non-negotiable system. Because every empire you build without God will demand your soul in return. But when God is first, you build in peace, you grow in strength, and you rest in trust. You don't need to beg, you don't need to strive, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to align, and alignment is louder than ambition. It speaks in results, in doors you didn't knock on, in favor you didn't deserve, in peace that makes no sense to the world around you. And when people ask, why are you so calm? Why are you so confident? How are things working for you like this? You won't point to your hustle. You won't point to your network. You'll point upward and say, because I didn't put myself first, I put God first, and everything else found its place. You want a life that makes sense. Put God first. You want a business that lasts. Put God first. You want a mindset that doesn't break under pressure. Put God first. You want a legacy that echoes beyond your time on earth. Put God first. Because the only way to live a life that can't be shaken is to build it on the rock. And the rock is not a concept, not a Sunday sermon, not a motivational quote. The rock is a person, and his name is Jesus, the one who never changes, the one who never fails, the one who knew you, chose you, loved you, before you ever lifted a finger to earn it. So let the world chase noise, let them worship distractions, let them trade truth for trends. But as for you, you were made for something deeper, something higher, something eternal. Put God first, and everything else will follow. And here's the truth. When you really put God first, you'll lose some people. You'll outgrow some rooms. You'll become too real for shallow conversations, too focused for distractions, too faithful to compromise. And that's not punishment. That's elevation. That's what it looks like when God starts pruning everything that doesn't match your calling. He will strip away what you thought you needed, not to hurt you, but to prove you don't need anything but Him. He'll allow seasons of silence so you learn to hear His voice louder than theirs. He'll close doors you thought were your destiny, so you stop begging for crumbs when He designed you for the banquet table. Because when God is first, you don't chase people. You attract them. You don't cling to fake friends. You rise above them. You don't shrink to fit the room. You grow until the room expands because you're no longer rooted in opinions. You're rooted in the unshakable, the eternal, the divine. And when God is first, your definition of success changes. It's no longer about what you have. It's about who you've become. It's about the man you are when no one is watching. It's about the peace you carry in the middle of storms. It's about living in alignment with heaven. Even if earth never gives you applause, this world worships visibility, but heaven honors integrity. This world crowns the loud, but God anoints the obedient. And obedience will always take you further than ambition. You weren't called to fit in. You were called to be set apart, but you cannot walk in separation if you're still seeking approval, and you cannot walk in calling if you're still addicted to comfort. So when you put God first, be ready to walk alone for a while. Be ready to be misunderstood. Be ready to be overlooked. But understand this. Favor doesn't need an audience. It just needs your yes. It just needs your consistency. It just needs you to keep showing up. When the lights are off, when the doors are closed, when the crowd disappears, that's where God does His best work. In the hidden, in the quiet, in the secret place where roots go deep. Because when it's real, it doesn't need to be broadcasted. When it's from God, it doesn't need to be forced. When it's divine, it won't demand attention. It will carry weight. Weight that shakes rooms, weight that shifts atmospheres, weight that moves mountains, not because of who you are, but because of who goes before you. That's what happens when God is first. You don't walk into battle hoping to win. You walk in knowing it's already finished. You don't ask if you're qualified. You understand you were chosen. You don't shrink when the giants rise, because you've already seen what God can do with a stone and a surrendered heart. David didn't kill Goliath because he was strong. He killed him because he was aligned. He didn't walk onto that field with fear. He walked onto it with history with God, moments in the wilderness, victory over lions and bears, trust built in the secret. So when the public challenge came, he didn't need a sword. He had faith, and that's your call too. To stop living like you're powerless, to stop walking like you're waiting for permission. You've already been anointed. You've already been equipped, but none of it matters if God isn't first. You want mountains to move. Put Him first. You want fear to break. Put Him first. You want to walk into purpose with fire in your bones and stillness in your soul. Put Him first. because the world is loud. But your God whispers, and His whisper is worth more than the world's entire roar. So shut out the noise, turn off the distractions, get back to the altar, kneel before the source and say, "Use me, lead me." Strip away everything that doesn't belong. Teach me how to follow. Teach me how to hear. Teach me how to walk in step with you and never fall for imitation. That's not weakness, that's power. That's what changes nations. That's what shifts bloodlines. That's what breaks curses. A single life, fully surrendered, radically aligned, unapologetically faithful, sold out for the kingdom. Not halfway, not on Sundays, all in, all day, every breath, every dollar, every gift, every decision. Put God first, not as an option, as your operating system, because everything you want is waiting on the other side of your obedience. Everything you need is already in the hands of the one you keep forgetting to put first. If you're still searching, still questioning, still waking up with that ache in your chest that says, there has to be more than this, that's not anxiety. That's a holy reminder. That's God knocking, not on your door, but on your soul, reminding you that what you're building without Him will never feel like home, because you can decorate your life with all the things the world calls success. But if the foundation isn't God, it will always feel hollow. The laughter will sound distant. The achievements will feel staged. The relationships will leave you thirsty because you weren't made to thrive off applause. You were made to thrive in presence, and not just any presence. Not crowd presence, not social presence, divine presence, weighty, holy, peaceful beyond words, powerful beyond reason. That's why you can have less on paper and feel like you're finally rich, because the moment God is first, everything else finds its place. The chaos begins to quiet. The fog begins to lift. And the same life that once felt unbearable suddenly becomes sacred, because now it's in His hands. And when your life is in His hands, you don't fear the fire, because you know what was built in obedience can't be burned by the trial. You don't fear the famine because you know provision doesn't come from paychecks, it comes from promise. You don't fear the critics because you weren't called to please men, you were called to glorify God. Let them talk, let them mock, let them wonder how someone like you keeps rising, keeps winning, keeps walking with peace, and you just keep pointing up, because the answer isn't in your grind, it's in your God. And when He is first, favor follows, doors, open hearts, soften battles turn, and the impossible bows. But don't get it twisted. This isn't magic. This is principle. This is spiritual law. This is universal truth, that what is aligned with God cannot be stopped by man. You think it's a coincidence that everything started to make sense when you stopped trying to do it all yourself, that clarity hit when you fell on your knees, that the anxiety lifted when you laid it all down. That wasn't random. That was a system reordering itself. That was heaven's algorithm kicking in. That was the moment the universe responded to your surrender, because everything in creation knows its place. But man forgets. Man tries to play God. Man tries to rewrite divine structure and then wonders why nothing works. You want things to work. Put Him first. You want your relationships to have real love. Put Him first. You want your business to have purpose. Put Him first. You want your creativity to flow without burnout. Put Him first, because when He's first, He's also at the center. And when He's at the center, you don't need balance. You have alignment. Balance is exhausting. Balance is a juggling act. Balance says you can be everything all the time. But alignment says, I know my source. I know my mission. I know my order. And order is what gives power to your pace. It's what gives endurance to your discipline. It's what gives depth to your success. You weren't designed to carry everything. You were designed to carry what He gives you. His burden is light, but only when you put Him first, and when you do, you realize it was never about building a perfect life. It was about walking in divine partnership. You're not here to impress God. You're here to walk with Him, to build with Him, to dream with Him, to lead with Him, and to love like Him. When He is first, you don't see the world the same. You don't talk the same. You don't waste time the same because you're not driven by insecurity. You're moved by purpose, and purpose doesn't panic. That's why people who put God first move differently. There's a calm in their chaos, a stillness in their storm, a fire in their eyes that no failure can extinguish because they know they are held, they are led, they are chosen, and above all, they are sent. You've tried the world's way. Now it's time to try the kingdom way. Start your day by honoring the one who gave you life. Start your goals by asking what he desires. Start your relationships by aligning with his wisdom. And start seeing everything through the lens of eternity. Put God first. Because when you do, you don't just change your life, you change your lineage. You shift the atmosphere in your family. You become the one who breaks the pattern, who stops the curse, who sets the new standard. You become the one the enemy feared you would become, the one who can't be bribed, can't be bought, can't be broken. Because you're not here for approval, you're here for assignment. And when your life is built on assignment, you don't chase, you attract, you don't flinch, you focus, you don't give up, you get up. Because God is first, and everything else must bow to that truth. You feel it now, don't you? That stirring in your chest, that pressure in your spirit, that voice that says, this is what you've been missing. Not motivation, not strategy, but divine order. God was never meant to be an afterthought. He is the breath in your lungs, the rhythm in your heartbeat, the reason your eyes opened again this morning. And yet so many live like he's optional, like he's a side note, a fallback, a last resort, and they wonder why they're drowning in confusion, why their peace is rented and their joy is short-term. It's not because they don't work hard, it's because they're working out of place. Out of place equals out of power. Out of power equals out of purpose. Out of purpose equals out of peace. And you cannot fake peace. You can fake smiles. You can fake confidence. You can fake control. But your soul knows when something's missing. And until you put God first, it will always feel like something's missing. You'll walk through promotions that don't satisfy relationships, that don't fulfill routines, that leave you numb, because none of it was designed to fill the space only He can fill. You were born to walk with fire, to speak with authority, to stand with unshakable clarity, not because you are perfect, but because you are aligned. You are in order. You are under the covering of the Creator of galaxies. And that is a force no enemy can stand against, but you must choose not once, not on Sundays, every moment, every decision, every dollar, every yes. Every time fear whispers and pride flares, choose to put God first. Because putting Him first doesn't mean you won't face pressure. It means the pressure won't break you. It means the weight won't crush you. It means the critics won't define you, because your foundation is deeper than approval, stronger than fame, richer than money, and more permanent than anything the world can offer. When you put God first, you become a living paradox, humble yet unshakable, gentle yet fierce quiet, yet thundering with presence. You stop living for validation because you already know. You were chosen before you were born, marked before you were named, set apart before you ever had a platform. It doesn't matter how far you've drifted, how long you've been out of alignment. It takes one decision, one surrendered yes, to return to divine order, to step back into grace, to say, God, I'm done running. I'm done pretending. I'm done chasing shadows and missing substance. I'm done filling my life with noise that drowns out your whisper. Today, I put you first. And heaven responds to that kind of prayer. Heaven moves for that kind of heart, because heaven was always waiting on you to remember who you are, and more importantly, to remember whose you are. That's the truth the world can't package, the truth they can't brand or monetize, that success without surrender is counterfeit, that greatness without God is just a golden cage, that influence without obedience is spiritual bankruptcy. So build your life. Build it strong, build it loud, build it with vision, but for the sake of your soul, build it on the rock, not trends, not culture, not comparison, but on the unchanging truth of a God who has never lost a battle, never missed a moment, never walked away, even when you did. And now He stands at the center of your storm, your silence, your striving, saying, "Let me lead. Put me first, and I will give you peace that makes no sense, strength that never fades, and purpose that outlives the grave." Because when God is first, everything changes, not around you, within you. You rise different, you walk different, you think different, you live different. You become unstoppable, not because of who you are, but because of who you're aligned with. So now the question is not, can you be great? Can you be successful? Can you build a legacy? The real question is, can you build it with God first? Because the world can give you stages, but only God can give you substance. The world can give you followers, but only God can give you favor. The world can give you noise, but only God can give you a name that hell cannot silence. It's not about being loud, it's about being aligned. It's not about being seen, it's about being sent, and you cannot be sent by heaven. If you're still chained to the approval of man, you want power, not just performance. You want peace, not just productivity. You want to be unshaken when the world shakes, unbothered when others doubt, unmoved when doors close. Then put God first. Make Him your strategy, make Him your source, make Him your standard, and then watch how your life transforms, not just outwardly, but inwardly. Because true transformation doesn't start with habits, it starts with hierarchy. And if your life is not in divine order, your habits will always be chasing wholeness, but never finding it. You weren't made to live reactionary, you were made to live revolutionary, not waiting on life to happen, but walking into every room knowing God is first in my life, and because of that, I cannot lose. Let the world measure success by numbers. Let them chase trends and applause. But as for you, you measure by obedience. You measure by peace. You measure by alignment, because you know favor flows through the one who puts God first. And no, it's not always glamorous, it's not always popular, but it is always powerful, because God doesn't anoint you for comfort. He anoints you for purpose, for battle, for impact. And when you stand in that, when you build in that, when you live in that, you become a weapon in the hands of the Creator, a storm against stagnation, a light in places that only knew darkness, a walking testimony that when God is first, the impossible bows. You don't need to shout it. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to convince anybody. Just live it. Live like God is first, and your life will speak louder than any sermon. Your discipline will preach, your focus will testify, your stillness will scream that you serve a God who never fails. So let this be your anthem, your creed, your declaration that breaks every old agreement with fear and limitation. I will no longer chase what isn't mine. I will no longer worship the grind. I will no longer seek things and forget the source. From this moment forward, I put God first. In my goals, in my grind, in my rest, in my wealth, in my thoughts, in my relationships, in my silence, in my storm. God is first, because I know when He is first, I am never last. I am never forgotten. I am never without. I am always covered, always seen, always led, always empowered. Put God first, not because it's easy, but because it's everything. Because when the ground shakes, when the lights fade, when the noise dies down, He is still God and He is still first. And that is where your power lives, forever, always first. Thank you for joining me today. Please like and subscribe, and please leave a comment. We would love to hear from you.